Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we have some news out of the state of Florida and out of Tampa where Republican Governor of the state Ron Desantis has chosen Tampa's own Jay Collins to be Lieutenant Governor of the state of Florida. And this article from the TampaBay.com and the Tampa Bay Times talks about who he is, and I have my own personal thoughts about this that could potentially be interesting for 2026. So a little bit earlier on Tuesday, Republican Governor of Florida Ron Desantis has named his new Lieutenant Governor Tampa Republican Senator Jay Collins. DeSantis on Tuesday appointed Collins as a Lieutenant Governor, a largely ceremonial position that has been vacant since February when former Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez left the post to become the president of Florida International University. Collins, who is a former Green Beret, hasn't ruled out running for governor in 2026. His appointment could indicate that DeSantis, who is term limited, may support the Tampa senator as his chosen successor in the 2026 race. At a news press conference Tuesday at the Tampa Green Beret Association Team House, DeSantis said he was looking for someone that is capable of serving and leading as governor if that need were to ever arise. DeSantis and Collins did not take questions at the news conference. "I want you to know that as your lieutenant governor, I have your back," Collins said. "I'll fight to defend each and every one of you whether you are going to vote for me or not." The lieutenant governor is second in line if the governor steps down or can't complete their term, but has few statutory designated duties beyond that. The lieutenant governor makes around $135,000 annually. Collins has been a long, close ally of Governor Ron DeSantis and was elected to the Senate in large part due to DeSantis' endorsement. His appointment means there will be 3 vacant seats in the Senate. To fill Collins' seat, DeSantis would have to call for a special election. Now, there's some things about Collins as well. DeSantis was his early supporter. Collins was born in Montana, where he grew up in poverty. His dad lied while he was in high school, and he has said his dad died, while he was in high school, and he has said he at times lived in his car or crashed on couches. He was adopted by his grandparents. Collins enlisted in the U.S. Army and joined the Special Forces and received a Purple Heart for his service. He moved to Florida with his wife as a veteran in 2019 after their military service to raise their 2 sons. After initially living in Pasco County, Collins and his family moved to Tampa. In 2021, Collins launched a campaign for U.S. Congress, challenging Democratic incumbent U.S. Representative Kathy Castor in a heavily Democratic district. About a year after jumping into the race, Collins switched to run in the more Republican-friendly 15th District. A month later, Collins switched races again to run with DeSantis' endorsement for the Tampa Area State Senate, the seat that he won. DeSantis endorsed Collins even though the state's Republican Senate leadership had already spent tens of thousands of dollars in support of another Republican candidate. The Senate leadership-backed candidate, former Rep. Sean Harrison, withdrew from the race. Collins has been proven loyal to the governor after DeSantis earlier this year called for an immigration special session that legislative leadership opposed. Collins ran one of the governor's bills and opposed a plan unveiled by Senate and House Republican leaders. DeSantis also has endorsed Collins' wife, Layla Collins, who last year ran unsuccessfully for a Hillsborough County School Board seat. DeSantis recently appointed Layla Collins to the Florida State Board of Education. When it comes to working with the state, in addition to being a state senator, Collins works as chief operating officer for Operation BBQ Relief, which has received more than $13 million from the DeSantis administration to provide meals to people affected by hurricanes. In that job, he makes about $212,000 a year per his latest financial disclosure. Collins has also assisted the state in its mission to evacuate stranded Americans caught in the fray of the Iran-Israel conflict in 2023 when Florida chartered similar flights to evacuate people out of Israel following the deadly October Hamas attack. Collins helped connect the state with a group putting together resources. In June, the Florida Division of Emergency Management worked with Gray Bull Rescue, which Collins has been assisting from the Middle East to fly people out of the region. As a medic in Green Beret, Collins was deployed in 2007 to Afghanistan, where he sustained injuries that led to his leg being amputated. He spent more than 20 years in the U.S. military. DeSantis has previously said Collins is, quote, like an action figure. Now, it also goes into some of the bills he's sponsored and his support for gun legislation as well, but for the purpose of today's video, that's pretty much the gist of it. Collins has been a very long-time ally and supporter of Governor DeSantis. Now, this is interesting because being the lieutenant governor obviously sets up the possibility that Jay Collins could run for governor in 2026. Where Ron DeSantis is term limited per Florida's state law, he cannot seek a 3rd consecutive term, and Ron DeSantis has been a very popular governor in the state of Florida among the Republicans in the state, and The question is who will be the next governor after him. Now, Florida has become much more of a Republican state in recent years, so we can expect a Republican governor will probably win in 2026. The question is, who will that be? Well, U.S. Representative Byron Donalds of Florida's 19th district, which I do believe takes up large parts around Naples in the Florida area. Donalds represents this district right here. I'm missing here is Florida 19 down here. He won it by 32.6%, Florida 19th. So Donalds right now, and he also has the endorsement of President Donald Trump, starts out as the early favorite in this race. He already has the endorsement of several key people, including executive branch officials from Scott Bessent to Dan Bongino, Doug Burgum, Kelly Loeffler, all throughout the Trump administration, and Florida U.S. Senator Rick Scott as well. Senator Ashley Moody has not made an endorsement in this race, but also not really to expecting one anytime soon either on that one. So Donalds is currently the favorite. Now, Charles Burkhart, the former mayor, or the mayor of Surfside, Florida, is also running, but right now Byron Donalds is the likely Republican nominee in that race. The thing that everyone's waiting for is what will Governor DeSantis decide to do? Because Governor DeSantis has not yet endorsed Byron Donalds, and I would not bet on him doing so after DeSantis and Donalds had some heated, I believe, situations and conversations following the 2024 presidential campaign when Donalds and DeSantis, who were allies, Donalds endorsed President Trump very early in that campaign, and DeSantis obviously was upset by that, and now there seems to be a little bit of bad blood between Donalds and DeSantis. So DeSantis has been rumored now to potentially be backing someone else in this race other than Byron Donalds. And the rumor for a while has been that his wife, First Lady of the state of Florida, Casey DeSantis, has been publicly expressing interest in running for governor and that she may decide to run for this race. But now with Jay Collins appointed as lieutenant governor of Florida, obviously DeSantis wanted an ally of his to be lieutenant governor. So this doesn't 100% mean that Casey DeSantis won't run for governor in 2026. But having Jay Collins be the lieutenant governor and potentially be able to run for governor could be like a backup plan if Casey DeSantis decides not to. Now, obviously, DeSantis, if she does decide to run, obviously Jay Collins would not run against her, as Collins is very close to Governor DeSantis and First Lady Casey DeSantis and would not do that. But if Casey DeSantis decides she did not want to run, I would expect Jay Collins would decide to run and he would receive the endorsement and all the support of Governor DeSantis. The way the race is currently going at this current point in time with hypothetical polling shows that for Casey DeSantis versus Byron Donalds, it's actually a very competitive race, where in the most recent poll from the University of North Florida from the middle of July, it showed Casey DeSantis leading Byron Donalds by about 3 points. Now, still a good number of undecided voters at 18%, but DeSantis starts out with a 3-point lead. In the St. Pete polls, very popular poll in the state of Florida, it showed Byron Donalds getting 35%, Casey DeSantis starting out 27.4%, so around 27%. So still around a 7-point race in that one, even with Donalds leading. Target market research poll from back in May showed it a 1-point race for DeSantis versus Donalds. Fabrizio Lee & Associates, which is one of President Trump's top pollsters, showed it a 4-point race between Donalds and DeSantis on the first round of voting on that one. So this is very interesting that if DeSantis and Donalds face off against each other, it shows a very close race that Casey DeSantis very well could win. Now, I think a large part of this is the fact that Casey DeSantis, being Governor DeSantis' wife, is very well known in the state and has likely very high name recognition and is also probably very well liked in the state of Florida. Jay Collins, though he's now the lieutenant governor, would not probably be as well known statewide, and he would not have the DeSantis name, so he would probably not start out with the same levels of support that Casey DeSantis would. That doesn't mean if the primary between Byron Donalds and Jay Collins happened that Collins could not win, but I think he would have less of a chance at winning than Casey DeSantis would due to the fact that Casey DeSantis is the governor's wife and is super well known. Where Collins would probably start out with smaller name recognition, though he does have some time to try and get his name ID up. So this Republican primary is going to be very fascinating to watch in the state of Florida, whether Casey DeSantis or Jay Collins decides to run against Byron Donalds in 2026. But I would bet on one of them certainly running against Byron Donalds in that election. Now for the general election, Democrat David Jolly, a former Republican U.S. representative from the 13th District, is running. 2 other Democrats, Al Lawson and Angie Nixon, have expressed interest in running, and Daniela Levine Cava, the mayor of Miami-Dade County, is listed as a potential candidate. Several Democrats have already ruled out running, including Jason Pizzo, who is now running for governor as an independent. David Jolly's been getting the endorsement of several U.S. representatives, and from the state of Florida, and it seems like right now he'd be the likely candidate to become the Democratic nominee. Jason Pizzo will be on the ballot as an independent, and this race is listed as solid Republican from Cook Political Report, Inside Elections, and Sabado's Crystal Ball, and I honestly agree with these rankings. Only one poll from Victory Insights showed it a 6-point race between Donalds and Jolly, but there was also 32% undecided in that. Now, for Donalds versus Levine Cava versus Pizzo, it's about a 4-point race. For Casey DeSantis, when her name's included, it's also a 4-point race, but it's also very early on from that one pollster, and still a very large percentage of undecided voters. Now, I don't think this race is going to be too competitive at the general election level, to be completely honest. In 2022, Ron DeSantis won re-election by 19.4% against former Governor Charlie Crist, just 4 years after 2018, when it was a very close race between Ron DeSantis and Democrat Andrew Gillum, where DeSantis won his first term in a very narrow election. But Florida has moved very far to the Republican direction in 2024, voting for Donald Trump by 13.1% in the presidential race, and in the Senate race, when the poll showed that Senator Rick Scott may be in trouble, he ended up winning by 12.8% in the Senate race. So Florida has certainly moved very far to the right, so much so it's been one of the most Republican trending states in the entire country. Just from 2020 to 2024, Florida moved 9.7% more towards the Republican direction by margin of victory from 2020 to 2024. From 2012 to 2024, Florida has moved 14 points towards the Republican direction. So Florida is becoming much more of a safe Republican state, and I think the governor's race will likely be the same. An independent candidate being in the race could play an interesting role. Maybe he takes away some Republican voters. I would bet on Pizzo, being a former Democrat, will probably take more Democratic voters away, but that could be something very interesting to watch for as well. As for the governor's race, my most recent 2026 governor's map prediction, I have the state of Florida listed as safe for the Republicans. Yes, the early polling data does not show that now, but once the election gets closer and the undecided voters start choosing which candidates they support, whether it's Donalds or Jay Collins or Casey DeSantis, I think we're going to see another Republican governor representing the state of Florida after 2026. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. Leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts on this video and any other video ideas you'd like to see me go over. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in a future video.